All right, guys, how's it going? This is Kevin here from Sensitive Acceptance, where we are trying to change the way society views emotion. If you guys are interested in topics such as the highly sensitive person, especially as it relates to masculinity, personality, psychology, and mental health topics, please hit the subscribe button because I cover all of those. And yeah, it would be very much appreciated. Hit the bell too to stay notified, of course. So today we're filming outside. I just didn't want to stay in my room. I wanted to head out into the beautiful outdoors. HSPs, of course, we love nature. And today we're going to be talking about, we're going to start getting to some MBTI stuff, some union typology stuff. And this video is going to be all about, so the whole idea is I've had a hard time trying to type myself. I've gone into all kinds of theory beyond just taking the tests. I've taken multiple tests. I have studied the cognitive functions pretty extensively over the last month. And I've also started studying the type grid that C.S. Joseph created, that's based off Dr. Linda Barron's research. So this video is going to be all about differentiating whether I could be an INFJ or I could be a INFP. Now, I'm pretty confident that I am either introverted, or I'm an I or an E, or no, sorry, I take that back. I'm pretty confident that I am an I, and I am pretty confident that I am an N. So introverted and intuitive. But the last two letters, I'm having a hard time figuring that out. So basically, here, let me just turn around for a second. Basically, two of those key types that I feel I may be are INFJ and INFP. And I did want to mention as a side note, I'm actually very self-conscious right now while I'm filming this that someone may be passing by me, for example. So that could play into helping you guys type me during this video. I'm very self-conscious about who could be listening to me right now or seeing me as I film this video. So yes, as I said before, two of the types I feel I may be are INFJ and INFP. So what I want to do in this video is I'm going to go through some of the cognitive functions, well actually the main functions in the stack for INFJs and INFPs, and hopefully you guys can help steer me and help type me in this video if I provide enough evidence that I may be an INFJ or an INFP. And I may do this same video, but comparing, let's say, INFJ and INTJ, or INFJ and INTP, because where I'm leaning right now with my type is being an INFJ. I've typed as an INFJ on the tests. I would say about 3 tests out of maybe 4 or 5 I've typed INFJ. I also sometimes get INTJ on those tests, but of course it's pretty common knowledge now in this community that those tests are not accurate, or they're only accurate about 60% of the time on average. So hopefully I can provide some clues, maybe by the way I'm talking in this video, by what this channel is all about, and for some of the examples I provide that can help you guys type me and what I may be. So let's first start at the INFJ's main function stack. So the hero function for an INFJ at the very top is introverted intuition. I personally find this very confusing to understand, actually, because the definition that different knowledgeable people in this area provide is that you tend to focus on one thing and everything converges towards that one thing. So with the knowledge you collect, the research you perform, you're always trying to move in one singular direction. Everything's converging into that one thing. Now, I will add, I have a very hard time with very abstract questions on the MBTI tests that tend to probably diagnose whether you're using introverted intuition or extroverted intuition. I have a very hard time with those. I'm not really sure why. I tend to want, I like practical examples that help me really see how these functions are manifesting in my life, and I find that some of the tests don't provide those, so I find myself having to guess what type I may be. So just as a side note, beyond being very self-conscious of people around me, I'm also very perfectionistic. I want this video to go well, and I'm actually noticing how the camera's kind of shaking right now, which is unfortunate because it's kind of based off the way I'm walking. So maybe I'll just stand put for a sec while I talk. But basically, I was talking about introverted intuition and also how I have a hard time with the abstract questions on these tests. So moving on, related to introverted intuition. In my life, I'm the type of person, I can get very obsessive. What makes me feel like I might use introverted intuition a lot. I can get very obsessive when I want something. So I can fixate on that so much to the point where I'm always thinking about it. I've always been a very, at least in the last few years as I got into self-development and such, I've been very goal-oriented. I always want to work towards a goal. Sometimes I have multiple goals, of course, but I do find myself very motivated to work towards different goals. And I'm trying to think of areas where this can apply. I mean, I am pretty, if I have a goal, I tend to work towards it continuously. It's not like I'll just start and then stop. Like I've had YouTube channels in the past where I am able to produce a good number of videos before I ended up stopping the channel. I would say about 15 to 20 was the last one, and then I did stop. So, but I was pretty focused on that goal while I had that goal. Kind of an odd example that came to my head, but I wasn't sure if I should mention. When I was a kid, I tend to, like if I had a crush on someone, I would get almost into this really determined mode where I had to figure out a way to get them to like me. I had to figure out a way to, I would just constantly be thinking about them, constantly fixated on that goal of trying to get them to like me and trying to develop some kind of relationship. Although this is when I was very young, so it was kind of, in my elementary school years. But it's kind of a weird example that I feel may demonstrate introverted intuition. So, I mean, those are the only examples that are coming to my head at the moment. So let's move on to extroverted feeling. So what makes me think I may be using extroverted feeling? This is a conflicting one for me because lately, I mean, I'm in quarantine right now. This is when the pandemic is happening. So I haven't had a chance to use my FE that much recently because I've been at home the majority of the time. But this channel is one example of me wanting to use FE. I want to help people. I want to increase the acceptance of sensitivity especially in men, and also just in the general population. I want people to be okay expressing their sensitivity if that's a key trait of theirs. So basically, I really want to help people, and I haven't really had many opportunities lately to have like one-on-one situations where I'm able to help someone one-on-one or in a group per se, where I feel like I could help solve people's problems or give them advice. Now, one of the key indicators that some people use is, do people come and ask you for advice? Do people come and ask you to solve their problems? I can come up with some examples when I was younger where that's more prevalent, but I feel like lately I haven't really necessarily had people explicitly asking me to help them with their problems. One of my best friends does ask me to help him out with some things, some life situations when he feels a bit stuck. So that does happen occasionally, but I guess it's just hard for me to find a lot of concrete examples where that's happening. Another example of FE, I'm part of a Toastmasters club, and I'm the VP, or I was the VP of membership in that club, which is basically the role where you're responsible for, if a guest comes to a meeting, a Toastmasters meeting, which is a public speaking club, by the way, for those of you who don't know. If a guest comes to a Toastmasters meeting, it's my responsibility to talk to the guest, welcome them to the club, and provide them more information on the club in hopes that they'll join. So that's an example of FE for sure, because I'm trying to create harmony with the guests. I'm trying to establish rapport with the guests. I'm trying to help them feel comfortable, feel welcome at the club. So that's an example there as well. But that's pretty much the extent of FE as I can think about it right now. Another really key point that may indicate FE, but I don't know, is that when I'm around friends or just anybody in general, I find myself kind of having to be very careful and cautious with my words, so that I can be very careful to make sure I'm establishing or I may be establishing harmony with them. So I really don't like conflict. I really try and steer away from conflict and make sure that I'm able to, establish some kind of harmony. Make sure I don't say anything embarrassing. Make sure I don't, say anything that gets a weird reaction. I'm almost very fearful of the potential reaction. I've always thought that's kind of related to fear of rejection. I'm trying to understand some of this stuff. And, I did get bullied when I was younger, so I'm still trying to almost figure out what's still maybe some unresolved trauma or maybe some aspects that are still remaining in my personality and maybe would end up being fixed at some point and may not be nature as much as it is nurture. So that's pretty much all my FE examples. So let's move on to TI. TI is also one that I'm still trying to understand myself. I do feel like I apply internal logic. Now here's an example, and maybe you can tell me whether this is more of an introverted thinking example or an extroverted thinking example, but it is very logically driven. So when it comes to politics, I am very much a critical thinker. I try not to get too attached to specific ways of thinking or ideologies or anything. I try and really take the time to analyze my beliefs on a specific political view. So especially if I'm in a debate with someone or I'm trying to talk to them about something related to politics, I'm very careful not to be too imposing with a particular view. Of course, sometimes I can let my emotions per se get the best of me, where if I'm in a bad mood, I'll sometimes, just project onto them my views or something related to that makes me seem very stubborn or fixated on a particular point of view. But ultimately, I'm pretty open-minded and reasonable, and I'd like to think rational when it comes to the way I talk about politics or specific views with people I know. So whether that's introverted thinking or not, I'm not sure. But another thing related to introverted thinking, I have an engineering degree, which is evidenced by this ring. It's what they give you in Canada if you become an engineer. I have an engineering degree. That being said, I have been through a career change, and I now work in marketing. But yeah, so I now work in marketing, but I was an engineering graduate, and I found that in school when I was growing up, I was actually very good. I mean, I did well in school for the most part anyways, but specifically in like math and science, I was actually got really good grades, got pushed into engineering. Didn't particularly enjoy it. I did enjoy the user experience aspect of engineering, which was human factors engineering, which is basically designing technology and different things like ergonomic related things that people use to be used by humans so that they have a good user experience. So, but anyways, going back to engineering, I did have to take a lot of physics and math related courses. I really was using my introverted thinking a lot when I was in my school years. So that's another example of introverted thinking. So, it's tough. I do, just connecting back to introverted intuition and maybe how it works together with introverted thinking. I'm always thinking about the future. I'm always thinking about, how I can improve my life situation, how, and this makes me think I might be an idealist, like an NF type, but I'm always trying to think about how I can create a better outcome for myself, for other people. And I'm always overthinking or just thinking really deeply about the human related processes like personality types, mental health. I tend to very easily dwell on things that are problems in my life that I want to improve and get better at. And I find maybe that could be an NITI loop where I'm just constantly thinking about it at no end, when maybe I would do really well by just going outside and going for a walk like this. So yeah, so that's an example of NITI. So that's pretty much the first three functions. And then my inferior function, if I were to be an INFJ, would be extroverted sensing. So extroverted sensing, this is also, I'm not super attuned to what this may be based off what I've read up, but people with extroverted sensing, they're good at recognizing the physical aspects of the world, what's around them, like what they're touching, what they're feeling. Like someone with strong extroverted sensing, I assume they would enjoy going on this walk right now in nature, which I do enjoy. I actually really like being out in nature, although I have a hard time thinking about the present moment. So I've also been, I've never been the most athletic kid when I was in school, but I've always really enjoyed working out, and I've enjoyed playing team sports when I was a kid, although I didn't really fit in with the guys a lot of the time because I had a more sensitive personality. I wasn't always about, shooting the shit, as I talked about in my highly sensitive man video. So I am pretty in touch with the way my body moves, using physicality, those kind of things. So I would say my extroverted sensing is okay. But that's pretty much all I got for you related to extroverted sensing. So I'm going to switch over to the INFP's function stack, and describe why I've been conflicted and maybe why I might be an INFP. I will point out, some people, they mention the difference between being an or a J type and an P type. And they say that J's hate surprises, and they can't really go with the flow as well. They like to have kind of a plan in place, and they're very rigid in that way. They're very stubborn that way, and that is definitely more me. I like to come up with plans. I don't always like spontaneity, especially if it's something that's new for me and I haven't really tried or I'm not used to. I can get very anxious and uncomfortable. I like to kind of know what's going to happen. I like certainty. For example, if I'm going on a date with a girl, I try and be as prepared as I possibly can be. Yeah, so if I'm going on a date with a girl, I try and be as prepared as I possibly can be. I like to know exactly where we're going to go, what time we're going to meet. It has to be the right day for us to meet. It can't be a day where I have too many other things going on, or else I'll be too anxious about it. So that's an example of that. So that's what leads me to think, okay, that's more evidence for being a J, like an INFJ. So what I'd actually like to know from you guys is, if you guys are an INFJ, or maybe you've been confused between INFJ and INFP and you were able to identify your true type, what was the key differentiator that you guys used to identify if you were INFJ or INFP? Please comment down below, let me know, and I will reply to your comments so we can have a bit of a discussion. INFPs though, so their hero function is FI, introverted feeling. And so with introverted feeling, what leads me to believe I might be this? I'm so obsessive about, how I'm feeling, what I want in life. I get very passionate about my values. If I'm talking about something, like let's say I'm talking about this channel to someone and how passionate I am about trying to help sensitive men. If I tell, let's say, that to someone who matters to me, like my parents, where I value their opinion a lot, I can get very defensive very quickly if they were to disagree with me on that opinion. Almost to the point where I just get super agitated, angry, not because I'm insecure about what I'm talking about, but more so about, it just really matters to me. It's something that really matters to me, and I obviously want other people to feel impacted and influenced by what I'm discussing. So that's where I feel like my FI might be coming into play, where I have these things that really matter to me, and I want to make sure that other people are influenced by those things. That sounds very FE actually, but I'm talking more about like my personal goals, my identity, things that are related to me. For example, if something's really bothering me, which is actually a lot of the time I'm so fixated on my personal goals and problems, as I said before. I can have a hard time, like I wouldn't ask someone else how they're doing, or ask how their day was, or ask, what they're going through. I'll only be focused on, getting attention related to my problems, which seems kind of like, as INFPs are sometimes called, selfish, because of their FI, always caring about how they feel, what's internal to them. And so that's been a conflict there. And another thing is I've been very conflicted lately related to my professional life and career, and making sure that, I can find my purpose in life and something that's very important to me that I really enjoy. And it's been very hard and challenging to do that. I really want to find my purpose in life. That's very important to me. Meaning is important. I can get very defensive about those things if I'm talking to someone. Again, really trying to get them to see my side of things, understand my opinion, and so I'm very invested in what they think. As I said, career. I've already jumped from engineering to marketing. I've had in my back mind thinking I might go back to school for psychology. At the same time, entrepreneurship is very interesting to me. I've always been very entrepreneurial, figuring out a way that I can make money online, per se, and help people through an online medium. Like if I want to become a coach, like a life coach of some sort. So I've been very stumped between a few different options, or 3 or 4 options. I really like being out in nature more than being behind a laptop. So sometimes I'm like, is there some way where I could just be out here all day and have this be my job? But, I am conflicted between those things, and that's where, I'm trying to see what I value, what's meaningful to me, not trying to appease my parents or use FE to try and appease what other people may want from me or what's best for everyone else. I'm kind of saying, like, what would make me the happiest? And that seems FI to me. So that's where I get stuck, right? Am I using FE more, or am I using FI more? But now let's go to the parent function of an INFP, which is extroverted intuition. What I just described to you may be extroverted intuition. I just listed off 4 or 5 different careers that I'm weighing or directions I could go, right? And that seems like I'm weighing a number of different options. I'm not zeroing in on one in particular, right? So that's kind of FE, right? Or not FE, NE. Extrovert intuition, where you're considering a number of different possibilities. You're going off on tangential paths in terms of what you're considering in your life. But of course, my understanding of NI and NE are not super high at the moment, so I could be wrong, and that's where hopefully you guys can help steer me in the right direction. So that's really NE for me. I can't really think of, aside from the fact that I like to try and do everything at once. I sometimes, let's say I just bought a yearly subscription to Musician to try and learn guitar, right? So, they say not to, if you want to achieve goals in life, like let's say doing well on a YouTube channel, don't put too much on your plate, especially as a highly sensitive person who can get overstimulated very easily. But the problem with me is I want to do everything. I want to learn guitar, and I want to finish reading books and keep reading new books, and I want to build a YouTube channel, and I want to make money in different ways. I want to do my day job. I want to come out here and walk around. I have all these things I want to do, and that's where NE could be, kind of compromising my ability to, let's say, use NI, where I could focus on one thing and maybe have more success with that thing. So you can see I'm a little bit conflicted internally there, if you consider those two functions and which one I'm using. But let's move on to the third one, SI, the child function, introverted sensing of an INFP. So we talked about extroverted sensing and how I might be using that, but introverted sensing, some of the examples they give for that, I feel I may be using also. So when it comes to one thing they describe when they're talking about SI is your ability to remember the past, or how often you go back to the past. While I do dwell more on the future and what could be coming, and how I can improve my life so I can do well in the future, I do sometimes think about past situations that happened, maybe ones that were very emotionally traumatic, or maybe just emotionally positive, emotionally memorable in general. Maybe a time when, you know, I had like a really bad date that occurred, or a time I vividly remember very emotionally memorable events, like being at a wedding when I was 5 years old. But I don't remember the full thing. I just remember little snapshots. It's like, I described this to my parents, it's like I have a photo album inside my head. That's kind of what it's like. So that's more long-term memory. But in terms of short-term memory, I do find I have to keep reminders on my phone because I'm not particularly good at remembering short-term things. I mean, it really depends how important it is to me. Like, if it's something I'm worried about and it's upcoming, like an important appointment or something, that I'll probably remember because it just keeps popping into my head. But more day-to-day type of chore, task type things, I'm just not remembering those things. So I need to use reminders on my phone. And so memory is kind of a split thing. I always did really well on tests in school because I would just remember the way in which you do the different problems. Like, I never actually, like certain mathematical things, I can't say that I understood them necessarily in the sense of really understanding how it works or why it works, but because I was remembering the pattern of how to actually calculate something, or the way in which I visualized a particular concept or problem, I found it very easy to do well on tests. So I realize this is going to be a long video actually, because I wanted to talk about the type grid too, and I haven't even got to that yet. But that pretty much sums up SI pretty well for me. So the inferior function of an INFP is TE, extroverted thinking. Now, I heard this is really related to doing things in the external world, right? I have an issue with procrastination. I can always get things done, especially because I'm almost fearful of what someone will think if I don't deliver something before a deadline or up to their standards. I always make sure that I get it done and I get it done well. But that being said, when it comes to like my own projects or being disciplined, you know, I sometimes have a hard time, you know, just sitting down and getting to it and really working on it. And I can feel in ruts a lot, feel very unmotivated. And I feel like that could be an INFP thing. INFPs can have hard times with motivation. Like, they need to have the right mood or feel like they're into something to be able to do it, which is very much how I feel. But so T inferior would mean I'm not particularly good at just getting things done, and I can't just get things done for the sake of getting things done, like an ESTJ would, let's say. So even in the workplace, you know, I have to really feel like something is fun or it matters to me to really kind of get to it, and I find myself just getting distracted a lot if something just isn't that fun or doesn't mean much to me. So that could be an example of TE. So that's the thing, right? Maybe in a future video I could get into like the shadow functions of INFJs and INFPs, because I feel like there might be more substance in there to go through, like the nemesis, trickster, critic, and demon functions. But I'm not going to do that for the sake of this video. That pretty much sums up the cognitive functions for both types. But I did want to just quickly touch on the type grid, which comes out of Dr. Linda Barron's work, which is a system that I personally learned from C.S. Joseph on YouTube, and he's really big on using the type grid to type someone, not using tests, for sure not using tests, and not necessarily using cognitive functions, because it's just not as, there's not as many dimensions to go through. You have kind of less to work with, whereas type grid, there's just kind of more criteria, and you can use it like a multiplication table to be able to define what type you are very quickly, or just anybody else's type as well. So I'm still trying to figure out how to learn how to use this thing properly, but we can definitely give some examples. So I realize I'm gonna get sunburned if I'm out here much longer, so hopefully we can get to the point and wrap this up. But for an INFJ, they are chart the course types. They're finishers. They have a hard time starting things, but once they get going, they'll always finish it or move towards that. Do I feel like that's accurate for myself? Well, I've mentioned that I've had a couple other YouTube channels that I did work on for a while, but I never ended up ultimately making them my career. I did end up stopping them eventually. My first gaming channel, that was like, I stopped it after, let's say, a few years. And my last travel channel I stopped after maybe only half a year, not that long, right? So that makes me think maybe I'm not a good finisher. But that being said, I feel like I can get into flow states and rhythms with the things that I work on and the things that I do, right? So I mean, you could definitely make an argument for both cases. Now, in terms of being a finisher, trying to think what other examples I can give. I mean, I was always good at, when I got assignments at school when I was younger, I would always make sure that they got done on time before the deadline. I always finished my assignments. I was a good student, right? And that's really the only examples I can think of right now. So I'm going to try and put this type grid on the screen, actually. So you should see it on the screen now during this video, so it's easier for you to follow along. But in terms of the interaction style, so the interaction style is where the INFJ and INFP will differ. In terms of their temperament, they have the same temperament. They're both idealists. They're both very affiliative, so about the community, about, kind of rules that can benefit people. Wow, this path is getting busier. So maybe I should speed things up. So interaction, okay, so their temperaments are pretty much are the same. They're the same. They're affiliative, abstract people. And they're also interest-based. So they're more about their motivations and not using systems, but seeing about what motivates them and how they can work towards that. So, but in terms of their interaction styles, this is where they're going to differ, and this is what we'll touch on. So interaction styles, INFJs are direct, they're responding, and they're movement. So, and maybe you can differentiate this by how I speak in this video, and you can look at my mannerisms, right? I feel like I can be direct at times, like in a work situation. I'd rather the person just give me the instruction, tell me what I need to do, and then I can go off and do it. If we're going on a phone call at work, let's just keep it quick, let's keep it brief, let's get to the point, and let's start working on whatever I have to work on my own. So that's an example of direct. But informative, like I feel like when I'm with my friends, I don't know, it depends. Like if I feel very self-conscious or inhibited, I can put on this mask of being very to the point, very almost cold, direct, not saying a whole lot, kind of letting them come to me, which would be responding. And both types have responding interaction styles, INFJs and INFPs. But, I feel like, when I really get on a roll, like let's say I go to a bar, I'm feeling comfortable with the person I'm with, I'm, wanting to tell them about a lot of things, I can be like this. I can share a lot of things. I can, really, if I'm with my parents, I'll just start kind of talking a lot and being very informative, right? The example C.S. Joseph gives is when you open the fridge and you don't see milk there. Let's say your husband or wife, let's say, is going to the store later in the day, and they're going to get milk. So when you open the door to the fridge and you see that there's no milk, what do you tell them? Do you say, hey, can you go get some milk later today? Which would be the direct approach. Or do you say, well, we have no milk, which would be the informative approach. So in that situation, what I realize I tend to say is, I noticed that there's no milk in the fridge. Are you going to the store later today? So I don't explicitly tell them to go to the store and get me milk. I just I veer my way in that direction, but at the same time, I'm not just saying, oh, there's no milk, and leaving all the interpretation up to them. I am asking them if they're going to the store. I'm making it very obvious that I would like them to get milk. So it's kind of an in-between approach. So I'm not really sure whether that's direct or informative, right? Now, both types are responding, so we're not going to cover that. That's more it's kind of like an introverted approach where you don't initiate conversations as often as you let conversations come to you and engage in that way. But the last differentiator is movement versus control. So INFJs are movement and INFPs are control. So in terms of movement, I mean, that's obviously related to wanting to, move forward, get things done. Let's not wait around. We can operate in chaos. We can, even if things are chaotic, sometimes we need to introduce chaos in order to reach our goals. Because we got to reach our goals. We got to get there, right? And that's kind of the attitude I have with my goals, right? I have done things before in my life that I'm very uncomfortable with because I know that they could get me what I want to get in my life in terms of goals. That being said, I do have a comfort zone, very much so. And this actually is another point related to introverted sensing that the INFP uses. But I have a comfort zone, and it takes a lot for me to get out of my comfort zone. But I will do it. I will do it because my goal is very important. So that's an example of movement. You can also judge, I think, by how people talk. Like, I watched a video of C.S. Joseph typing Ben Shapiro, and he said that Ben Shapiro was movement, and Ben Shapiro talks really quickly, whereas Jordan Peterson is control, and he doesn't talk as quick. So you could use that as an indicator, but of course, if you guys are giving me any feedback below, I want to make sure that you guys understand how to use the type grid. I would advise watching some of C.S. Joseph's videos, even looking into Linda Barron's work, so you could see what these things really mean and what they are. I'm going based off what I know at this point, which I feel is decently accurate, but there may be some holes in my reasoning. So that is movement. Control. You cannot operate in chaos. You need there to be order in order to progress with different things in your life. I am very much this way when it comes to at work. I need things to be, I can't have too many things on my plate at once. I can't have that chaos. I need to only have a certain set of things to work on, not too many things, right? If I have too many things on the go at once, too many responsibilities, I get really stressed out and I just cannot, I have a hard time functioning. I can blaze away and chip away at those goals, but it's challenging, it's hard, because I'm just super stressed out. So I do need some order when it comes to that. I do want to get things done though when I'm at work. I like to chip away at things, get them done quickly. So that aspect could be movement. I'm actually getting very hot. I need to get out of here as quickly as possible. So let's try and get to the point and wrap this up. But I think that's a pretty good synopsis of control. Aspects where I may want order. If I'm, as I said before, I like to plan things out. I like to, which is weird because someone said, oh, that's more characteristic of J types, but INFPs are the ones who use control. They're the ones who like order and want to plan things out according to the type grid. So that is a confusion of mine for sure. So yeah, let's wrap that up. So, I mean, in terms of what they call this interaction style of the INFP, they call INFPs behind the scenes types or background types. I'm not really gonna go much beyond that. I mean, I pretty much went through their interaction style, and you'll see the type grid up on the screen. But essentially that sums up both types for this video. Hopefully I gave you guys enough evidence that maybe you can advise me in one direction or the other. Yet I still also don't know whether I could be an INTJ or INFP or INTP perhaps. So maybe we won't come to a conclusion at the end of this video, but hopefully I can get some great advice in the comment section on what type I may be. So if you guys did enjoy this video, I would definitely appreciate it if you could leave a like. And so this channel is all about, I cover topics like high sensitivity, highly sensitive people, especially as it relates to masculinity and what it means to be a sensitive man, as opposed to, let's say, fitting the traditional masculine traits. I cover mental health stuff. I haven't really covered any yet to this point, but I will be talking about mental health. And of course, I'm starting to dip into some personality stuff. I'm really into union typology, and personality psychology is something I've been getting into. So I'm going to be talking about that stuff as well. So if you guys enjoy that, or we want to see more of that, definitely hit the subscribe button and click the bell to be notified when I release a new video. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to sign off. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time, guys, take care.